How we doing, folks? Welcome back to the channel. And today on the lathe we have a piece of silver birch that's been kicking around the farm for a few years now. Nice and dry. Nice bit of spalting going on in there. And today's project, as you will have seen, is called the Golden Bolt. And that is because, I don't know whether this is a worldwide tradition or not, but for railway workers, traditionally when they finished a railway, the last bolt that they put in to join the tracks would be made of gold. And there'd be a ceremony and all that good stuff. And nowadays, when a railway worker retires for long service, they are awarded a golden bolt as a symbol of their hard work. And my neighbour has been given the task of presenting somebody that he works with one of these golden bolts, and he asked me if I could make a display unit for said golden bolt. So that is what we're doing today. Now, I could have looked at some designs, I guess, for these kind of presentation pieces, but I thought we'd just put a lump of wood on the lathe and see what came out, and hopefully it works. So at this point in the video, I was on autopilot and I thought I was making a bowl, and then I remembered what I was doing and remembered that we had to make this a fairly flat, compact piece of wood. So that's what I've just done, and that's the mortise going in now. So that's the base of the piece that you're looking at. And this wood is very light in colour. It does have some nice marking in it. But I was thinking, railway work is a dirty business. Lots of coal, lots of diesel smoke, and so I thought it was about time we had another go with the black wood dye. So this is quite a dry mix this time of the wood dye, and the idea is that we create a sort of distressed old finish. So I applied it, I dried it, and then I very quickly sanded the vast majority of it off. And then a lot of sanding paste. And a lot of shine juice. And it's that time of the show where we get to have a look at some of your fantastic work. And this is a red cedar bowl that's been sent in by Johnny Granstaff from the United States. That's a nice piece of work. Now, Johnny's got a YouTube channel that he's just started, and if you search for Johnny G's DIY, then you'll find him on YouTube, and I'll pop a link to his channel in the description of this video. And if you'd like to be featured on the show, you can send your images to willmakeseverything@gmail.com. Okay, so it's time to work on the top of the piece. Now, we were working on the woodworm screw when we started off, which means I've got to turn down to the depth of the woodworm hole, which actually made the piece slightly thinner than I wanted to make it, but it's not a problem. And this piece is going to have a brass plaque on the outside, presumably with his name and some details and that kind of thing on it. So I needed to make a radius around the outside, and the plaque is 4 inches by 2 inches wide. So I needed a 2-inch radius. Obviously the plaque is rectangular, and the radius on the outside of my bowl is not rectangular. It's a compound curve in 2 directions, and the brass won't bend. It'll bend in one direction, but it won't bend in the other direction, so we have to fix that. We have to make a level surface in a minute for the brass plate. So as I said, at the minute we're just turning to the level of that woodworm screw hole. And then I wasn't happy with that angle I put on. I decided I wanted a shallower angle. Turns lovely, this silver birch. Really nice and easy to turn. Okay, so that's the new radius. I was happy with that. So it's time to sand up to 600 grit. And then our old friend, the black wood dye, comes out again. This time I was even quicker with taking that off. I didn't want quite so much black as we got on the bottom. And there is the shine juice finish. Quite a distressed look to the piece. I quite like it. You still get the chatoyance in the wood. It's a nice finish. Nice and smooth. So then we had to take some hand tools and some power tools to the newly finished piece, which is always an interesting experience. And I really didn't want to use my belt grinder, but that rasp was having none of it. So out comes the big boy. Steady hand required when doing that job. And this was a slow and steady process. One slip and it's knackered. So that's a 40 grit belt on the sander, which does remove quite a lot of material. And then shortly we switch over to the orbital sander, and up to 240 grit on that plate surface. And then a bit of hand buffing with some shine juice and some, I used the same rag as I applied the black finish with to get the same look. Okay, so it's time to do the second part, the bit that will actually hold the golden bolt, and that is a piece of walnut branch I've got on the lathe now, a bit of spindle turning. So we're turning between centres at the moment at 800 RPM. So very quickly we've got it in the chuck, which is where I like it to be, and we're up to 1400 RPM now. So there was a bit too much wood there for my liking, so I put a mortise on the other end for future use, and chopped it off and put it in my savesies pile. And now it's time to start making the actual hook profile. No tailstock support, so my idea was do a little bit at a time, keep the weight in the piece, keep it nice and steady. Still using the 40/40 grind bowl gouge. Perfectly adequate for what we were doing with this. So as I was turning it down, I was imagining the final shape that I wanted, and putting it in straight away, rather than turning it to a flat and then going down the line. So the shape we're after is almost like a baby's rattle, because what I want to make is a fork, essentially, to go around the collar of the bolt. And to do that on the lathe, what you need to do is make, like I say, a sort of baby's rattle shape. And that's the baby's rattle done. Sand it up to 600 grit. Sanding paste and shine juice, as ever. Okay, so now we get to use the belt sander again, and sand some flats onto the side of the baby's rattle. I drilled out a 32mm hole and cut the top off with my bandsaw. And I sanded a radius onto the back just to hold the bolt at a slightly nicer angle. And then it was the task of using the Dremel to profile that, just to get it sitting nicely in there. And it's a bit blocky at the moment, isn't it? So a large amount of hand sanding. And I sanded it up to about 240 grit, maybe 400 grit in places. And then lots and lots of shine juice, and I took it over to the buffing wheel and buffed it up to a nice finish. Okay, so that's the hole that we're going to insert the baby's rattle fork thing into. Just dremeling it out. And there it is. It's an interesting shape, isn't it? There we go, all finished up. So I will leave you as ever with the glamour shots. You'll have to imagine the brass plaque on the front, but I think that should look pretty funky. Certainly a unique way to display a golden bolt. You have to let me know what you think. So thanks very much for following along. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll be back tomorrow with something new and exciting. So take it easy, folks. See you later.